Well, good evening, folks. Hope you're well. This video for me to do straight off the top of my head is quite complicated for a simple soul like me. So if it looks a bit, I don't know, ass before face on occasions, excuse the pun, um, so be it. Because I'm trying to get it across to you with due respect in the most simple way I can, so more people who view this may be new. I'm not really into conspiracies, but that's what we're living in. We are living, our world is a total conspiracy from start to finish. And it's them against us, I'm afraid. It's always been that way, and I shall explain. UK is in the midst of this Brexititis, aren't we? We're in this world of, well, for a start, you know, 17.6 something like that million people in the United Kingdom want to leave Europe, and we get the Brexit, and then it's rather strange that most millennials want to stay in, but they don't realise how good it was before we were in Europe. So more to be pitied than scorned. You might remember that Great Britain, forget all the wars, myriads of them, but Great Britain was in fact a fantastic industrial nation. We had manufacturing second to none. We had an armaments business. We had a motor car business, a motorbike business, a steel production. We had coal mines. We were entirely self-sufficient regarding commodities. We, on top of that, we stacked up. We discovered gas and we discovered oil right on the shores. We had it all, much to the irritation of those who seek to control. Yes, the bankers. I go on about the bankers because bankers rule the world. Banking families rule the world. It's a tough pill to swallow, I know. And people say, don't be ridiculous. But that's fine. You carry on saying that. But it's an absolute fact. Money, you cannot live without it. No, you can't eat the stuff, but you can eat what it'll buy you. And I used to struggle, even as a child. I used to think, well, where did this concept of money come from? And before we can understand precisely what's going on in the world, we have to understand where this bloody money principle came from. A lot of theories hit the plate, and lots of offerings about how money came, and it is widely hidden, actually, why and how we adopted this concept, because most of us will know the story of Jesus and his rant through the temple, the moneylenders, and he threw them out of the temple. Yeah, it's, most people know this. He threw a tantrum and turned over all the tables. All the shekels went on the floor. That was just a sign and symptom of the disease that had already gripped the world, quite frankly. And that was a couple of thousand years ago, if you can believe the world of Jesus Christ story, the story of Jesus. Now, I'm not religious, as you know, but we have to go back another couple of thousand years, it seems, given the indications and the lessons I've learned. So I'm going to talk about where this principle of money came from. And you can talk all day about the bartering system, because that's what people did before money arrived. It used to be, I've got a set of talents, you've got a set of talent, I got something you want, you got something. I'll tell you what, I'll do something for you, you do something for me, or I'll tell you what, if you want my donkey, I'll give you one of my pigs, and we can do it, we can trade. But before that time, just imagine this. And it's tough to get your head around, it really is, but I'm going to put some information out at the end of the video for you. and you can do your own due diligence. My understanding and take on it is very, very basic, because I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a banker at all, but I get it. And once you get it, I always feel sorry to use an analogy, but I will, of people who are blind. I think people who are born blind are at a distinct advantage, quite frankly, to those who become blind. Because the people who are born blind don't know what they're missing. So, it's like us, me and you, if you're perfectly okay, what do you do with your seventh sense? I know we've all got fifth sense, five senses, but most of us have a sixth, and we don't quite understand what it's all about. There's a crunchy feeling, and maybe there's a seventh. But you and I weren't born with the sixth and seventh, were we? But this is the analogy. You don't miss what you've never had. So people who are born blind have the little bit of an advantage on those who become blind. But those who can see, there's an old adage, isn't there? The rulers of the world belongs, when you're in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And I want you to become the one-eyed person, being sexually politically correct. Because you, after watching this video, will at least be aware of something that less than 1 in 1,000 people easily will be aware of. Maybe don't even give it a second thought. But it rules your life, and it rules the world. And we're born into this. So we are born blind because, quite frankly, they don't want us to see. Because if everybody truly woke up tomorrow and know what I know and what you will know in a moment, there would quite simply be a revolution. And it's as simple as that. Because the human race, as you know it, Jim, not as you know it, but the human race has had an absolute flanker pulled upon it. We have to accept that we were born, every man, Jack and one of us, I use that a lot, into slavery. We are slaves. And we can have delusions of grandeur, but we're all slaves. Money, you can't eat it, no, but you can't live without it. And the system is quite deliberate in that. It is the one sole source of controlling human beings, and that is money. Okay, we have to grasp this. It's not religion, it's not God, it's not churches, it's money. And when they say that money is the root of all evil, absolutely it is, because money came from evil. Okay? The concept of money. And it's not a case of don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. It's a question of try to grasp what money can do for you. There are very few things that a bag full of money can't solve on this world. Okay, fair enough. It can't buy you happiness, but at least you can be miserable in style. It can't buy you another arm if you lose one. No, it has its limitations, but suffice to say, it does the job intended from it. So what about this thing called money? I often used to ponder this before I became enlightened. And it's almost like I almost don't want to know, because it's been one of the biggest mysteries in my life as where this money come from. There are many, many books published about the origins of money, but there's always been some crap in there that's destroyed the book, quite honestly. And I'm going to give it you a potted version because it's in my briefest way of telling you, is that money was thrust upon us, and the concept of money was thrust upon us as a means to control the human race. It was not a human invention. Okay. It was, and this is where it gets a bit difficult, I suppose, to convey this to you for me. Imagine that you have a world and you now need to populate this world to make it productive. All right? And you don't come from this world. So you and your gang are going to land on this earth, and now you've got lots and lots of worker bees out there called humans, who are really, one step away from caveman. They are surviving on the natural elements and the wits, what they know. They're running amok, and they're throughout the world. Okay. Then you think, well, how are we going to control the masses? Look at them all. They're like little ants all over a piece of jam bread. Millions and millions all over the world. So you are the gods, but you haven't quite got the good intentions of what you think a god should be, because we all think gods are lovely, lovely, lovely people. There are evil gods, folks. Okay. You could even think of the earth becoming hell, the hell of another planet. If you think about that, what I say will make sense. This earth could be the hell that is threatened amongst, or to, the inhabitants of paradise. And this is where they send the sinners. How about that? And God, isn't this world hell for most people? And it seems to me that even as a child, I used to think, well, life is meaningless. We come, we don't live very long, we produce, we die when we're fully loaded of information at the most useful time in our lives. We tend to drop dead. What a pointless waste. What an exercise it all is. It's a fruitless task. You may as well be dumb than intelligent when you die. It makes no odds, does it? You still die. Whether you've got lots of money, there is no pockets in the shroud. We all go in the Holy Ghost, don't we? It's a great leveller. Well, because we're disposable, folks, that's all. We are a tool. So you've got these gods there. They're thinking, well, how do we get these ants, millions of them, humans, into a semblance? And how are we going to cut up this world into manageable slices? That's how you eat an elephant, one slice at a time. I know. Now, this happened about 4,000 years ago. Okay, now 4,000 years ago, imagine what human beings were like on this planet. Not much different to what we are now, quite frankly. Except that we didn't have money. It was an unknown quantity. We used to work on the work system. I'll do that for you, you do that for me. We're both happy. We've both got something we need out of each other. Job done. And this is the bartering system that used to be. So money was quite a new concept. And how would you make it take control of some people's lives? How can you motivate the worker bees out there to conform and do as they're told? So what you decide to do is you put values on things. So the first money was actually in the form, if you can believe the Sumerian texts, of a clay tablet. All right? And these were, basically what happened was the nasty gods appointed rulers, okay, the kings, and they allocated the kings to various countries throughout the world. And these kings 4,000 years ago established themselves and took it upon themselves to say, in the future then, what we're going to do is reward. And the kings were established, the ruler kings, the ruler gods, were established by the evil gods in huge palatial cities. Cities you could never dream of looking at or believing, but they appeared. And this was the banks. And the the first money was a little clay tablet inscribed with the bearer of this, okay, has the power. It is currency, basically. And you obviously got the more clay tablets, the more money you have. Okay. So what they decided to do was to reward the peasants with clay tablets. And the more clay tablets, the more power the individual would wield. And this is the start of the banking system. To make the clay tablets cost nothing. All right. It was the authority that the clay tablet gave the individual that held it was the power. And isn't that quite so the case today? The more authority, i.e. the more money I have, the more influential I have, the bigger landowner I have, because they put a value on land and they started to partition it. That's going to be 6 clay tablets, that's going to be 4 clay tablets, and the clay tablets had rank or value. 10s, 20s, 50s, whatever. And this is how the issuance of clay tablets and money made these bankers, okay, the God-appointed priests of the world, the richest men. You talk about the richest men in Babylon, it's not a scratch. So the world was chopped up into fine little pieces and squares of manageable size, as was the population. And these temples, yes, the temples that Jesus got so pissed off with, the banks, became the place to be. And the appointed individuals, the Pharisees and the scribes, were the bank clerks and the bank managers, the true masters and owners of all this idea. Were way out of reach, and they consisted of, at the time, around about 12 gods or bloodlines. And they managed to enslave, eventually, the world's population to these temples. Solomon's temples, you got the Athens one, you got all over the place. I haven't got time to go through them all, you can search yourselves. But some of these buildings, even by today's standard, are absolutely enormous. And you think, who used to live here? If you look at some of these temples with enormous columns, it's bad enough when you look at the Bank of England building in London, that's big enough. But you check out some of the bankers, the head banks throughout the world. They've always got the biggest buildings, haven't they? Now you know why. And when you consider they haven't paid a bean for them, no, you and I couldn't afford to build such a building, but they can, because they can make the money up. It's cost them nothing, quite frankly. They can make money out of thin air, just as you could get a slab of clay and write out your own currency. They got away with it. So this is how money started. And clay was a bit heavy, so they put it on paper. The printing press come along, chung, chung, chung. We get the Federal Reserve printing out. It all stemmed from a clay tablet. So this is how you get a population of a world of human slaves into order. You cut them up one slice at a time, one country at a time, and one town, and one city, one town, one village. And then the local residents are saying, well, I can't barter anymore, but I need a goat and I need a sheep and I need a cow to feed my family. I need some land to, it's going to cost you a few clay tablets. Well, how can I get a clay tablet? Oh, you work. So off you go. You do the labour. You make all the vegetables and the fruit, and you become a farmer or a tradesman. And for that, we'll give you a clay tablet. And it evolved like this, folks. It truly did. So imagine that. It took a grip of the world so fast. And they established 3 major centres of excellence, if you want to call it that, throughout the world eventually. We have America, okay, which is the head of the military. This beast has 3 heads. America is the military beast's head. The financial head is in the city of London. And the religious head of this 3-headed monster is in the Vatican. Those 3 things control this world. And it all started from a clay tablet. Because you need religion for mind control. You need military to back it up, any dissenters out there. And you need the head honchos of all the printing presses, the financial lot, the clay tablet originators, and they're based in the city of London. When you control those 3 things, and guess what? If you want more money, you create more wars. More wars need more money. And how do you brainwash the idiots to go and fight the wars? With religion. So that triumvirate, if you want to call it that, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, it's a triumvirate. It's the military, the religious, and the money. And that is what life's about. And in order for them to reach their agenda of total world control, and it's nearly there, they need absolute compliance and homogeny. That means they're going to break up any vassal state that it wants to become independent. And this is all about one world army, one world government, one world religion. And there are between 12 and 15 highly organized families that go back for 4,000 years. They can trace their lineage. The Rothschilds, there's 12. The Rockefellers, the Sinclairs, the De Medicis. There's 27 families, but there are 12 families that truly do control this one. So when you understand that it's all about the control of money and the issuance of money, the control of religion, the control of who starts what wars, who's got the money, who's got the most money, who needs to be brought back in order because they're getting too big for their boots. Well, you've got the military, you've got the religion, okay? And then you've got the money lenders, the nest of vipers. That's the 3-headed beast. So now know this, we come to see what a nonsense that we think is Brexit. Because it's all smoke and mirrors. It was never, never, never in our destiny, Luke, that we should be able to divorce Europe. The Queen is already guilty of high treason, as is Tony Blair. We have been sold lock, stock and barrel already to Europe. We might think we're Brexiting, but it's just a minor setback if we were to Brexit, because the grand scale is we will be in eventually whether we like it or not. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward. It's typical David Icke syndrome where it's problem, reaction, solution. Well, yes, they didn't expect us to Brexit or want to. David Cameron certainly didn't expect us to Brexit. And Osborne and Cameron were gone like a fly off a dog shit. When they wave your hand, they fly off, don't they? And so did Blair. You see, all these lot thought it was in the bag that Britain would comply. And we haven't. And we put it to the vote, and they did not expect the Brexit vote to be successful. It caught them with their pants down, quite frankly. That's why Osborne and Clegg and all the big pro-European politicians of UK pissed off. But they will be back. As sure as God made little green apples, they will be back. Because even if we were to come out of Europe, bit of a setback, but those who seek to control every square inch of our world will see us as a bit of a renegade nation, and they will make our lives untenable. They will make it very difficult. And sooner or later, history will repeat itself, because they will act on problem, reaction, solution. If we're out of Europe, that's fine, be like that, no. This will be the attitude if we do eventually Brexit and do that to the foreigners. There will either be a war, or there will be an economical crash like you can't believe. And then the people, you and I, will say something must be done. This can't go on. We made a mistake. We came out of Europe. We should have stuck with Big Brother. And they will have another vote whether to join them again. And we will. Because that is the grand plan. And it'll be the third step forward that the moneylenders want. They didn't expect us to want to get out of Europe. Because effectively, it's all about control. Control of the people. You control the people by the issuance of money. Okay. It was decided in Thatcher's time before that, actually, by Heath. The paedophile, yes. With him and his buddies, Leon Bitter, my boy. You'll notice that they're all Jewish. Okay. Well, not necessarily Jewish, Zionists. You'll notice that they have a penchant, a passion for little boys and child sacrifice and paedophilia, because this is the delicatessens food for the elitists who are into satanistic child sacrifice. Sorry, I'm quite tired today. So we know where the money comes from. We know that it was a directive of the gods to appoint the leaders of this earth and install them as bankers or high priests in temples. Because we were put upon this earth, human beings, to be slaves. And that's why the world, folks, like it or lump it, we are slaves. And we could, this is why I think this is a penal colony, this world. We're thrown a few goodies like pretty things and whales and oceans and nice beautiful birds and, you know, a bit of fun now and then keeps the troops happy, of course it does. But it's because we don't know what true paradise is really like. We've never had it. Because from the moment we're born, from sperm to worm in the grave, we have to get a job. Why? Because we need this stuff called money. And you step out of line, you're not allowed to go off grid. They make it almost impossible for you to survive off grid. You can't take your family and go to a plot in the fields, can you? And say, right, Nancy, this is it. Nice little patch in the woods here. Let's build a log cabin. I've got me bow and arrow and we'll get back to basics. Nope. You can't do that, my old son, because somebody owns the bloody land. Okay, and they'll turf you off or kill you. And if you're poorly, you can't go to the local hospitals. No chance. There's no free tickets. The only thing your labour will do is allow you to generate clay tablets or money. And then, the more work you do, the more money you get allegedly, and the more things you can have, the more boys' toys. Yes. The bigger houses, the faster cars, the bigger driveway, the expensive holidays. You stop working, my old son, and see how quick you don't have these things. What a fantastic tool it is, isn't it? And that is an absolute evil enslavement of man. And when they say that money is the root of all evil, they are not kidding. It truly is. Because the root of money is evil. Because the people who populated this world with human beings had an evil agenda. They wanted to rape this world of its minerals and wealth, i.e. the gold. I've said it before in previous videos. It's all about the gold. Because gold is such a unique metal. They harvested the gold and the minerals out of the sea in Israel called the Dead Sea. It's bereft of life. There's nothing worth having inside the Dead Sea apart from salt. The gold. The gods rape this planet continually of its resources. And we are the enslaved. And the sooner we stop this delusions of grandeur and think we're something when we're nothing, we're all slaves. The royal family of the United Kingdom, the Saxon-Coburg-Gothas, are Nazis. Okay? Now, it makes a blindest bit of difference to me. Not at all. But they're Nazis. And we are led and lied to and deceived. People wave the Union Jack thinking it means a thing. But think about this. So powerful are these families, these royals throughout the world. The Queen, the richest woman in the world. Okay. Biggest landowner in the country, you'd think. The Queenie. And yet she's a Nazi. And her father was a Nazi. And her relatives, way back, they're Nazis. And the people who run this country are fundamentally orientated to, and they certainly don't want to, leave Europe. Because it was going to be Germany that run this deal. Hitler borrowed money to fight his corner. Who funded the Nazis? Give you a guess. The Rothschilds. And Rothschilds funded both sides of the war because they're indifferent as to who wins, because they win both ways. And it is so hard to get your head around, and it's easy to become so despondent and disappointed about life and deluded, and you think, oh God, nothing I can say or do makes the slightest bit of difference. And you're quite right, it doesn't. You can't go back and live in the woods, nor can I. And we have to go to work, and we have the realization, you see, that we'll come here with nothing and we'll go away with nothing is a crippler, isn't it? It's the way of the world. And if you don't think money's important, try burying your relatives. What do you mean? Well, it costs money. You can't, like in the old days, pick up Nancy, who's just dropped dead on you, bless her, during childbirth and take her in the woods and bury her. It costs money to bury somebody, doesn't it? And if you get caught burying somebody not in a chosen plot of land and paying money for that plot of land in the graveyards, a demarcation zone where you can put a body legally, and who makes the laws then? Well, we know who makes the laws. The elites. Yeah? The scribes. The scribbling Pharisees, they call them. It's all about the money. So it's one of these things that it is absolutely an evil construct. But there is an alternative to money, and some countries are actually adopting this. You might think, well, Iceland's got rid of the bankers and put a couple in prison, a couple of sacrificial lambs. And Iceland went to do business with the Central Bank of Iceland. Well, that's it. They're just going to put all their money in the Central Bank of Iceland. No more bankers. Well, the Central Bank of Iceland is controlled by the Rothschilds, ultimately, because all roads lead to Rome. Metaphorically, the Rothschilds and several other lesser mortals like the Rockefellers and these sort of lot. Well, now I'm quite happy because I know the origin. I know this is why I'm not intimidated by people or look up to people. I certainly don't look down to people, because when the truth hits you that you're nothing, it's a big bump. And you've got a lot of people you know in your life are suffering from delusions of grandeur. But we are simply a piece of dandruff on the shoulders of the bankers. Even if you are wealthy, you're nothing. You are a means to an end, because they are all wanting to get up to the top of the pyramid in this 5% group. And as deluded as people seem to think, if you have a job to go to, you are working class. If you get up to an alarm clock, why do they call it an alarm clock? More heart attacks happen between 6:30 in the morning and 9:30 than any other time of the day. It is an alarming time. Traffic, rush hour traffic, getting on the underground, getting on the train, missing a train, late for an appointment, yada, 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 yada. We even control ourselves with a bloody diary. Oh, what's my diary? What am I doing on Monday? I can't see you on Monday. I've got to do this. I've got Thursdays. Okay, I'm free then. Oh, God, rush, trying to pack as much as you can in a day. It's not the sort of life I want. No. But you're not allowed to break free and leave the system. The moment you're born, you're registered, you become another being. You're a tax-paying unit on paper. You are a government banking asset. Isn't it a tragedy? We're so lucky to be on this planet. Well, with that thoughts, folks, whether we Brexit or not makes no odds to me, personally. It really doesn't make any odds to anybody. Because, like everything, like the Towers of Babel, everything, and I mean everything, is temporary. And the sooner we realise, the better. And the one way of having happiness in this life, how to increase your happiness, having grabbed hold of it, is to stop wanting things. There we are. Yes, it's a nice big house you've got there, and a lovely Ferrari. Very nice. Oh, David's worked so hard for it. I'm sure he has. But know this. If one man has more than another, ask yourself why. Who's the giver and who's the taker? And when you get to a point where you get 5% of the world are the takers, we have to understand there's 95% of the world that must be the abused givers. The slaves, Neo. It doesn't matter what you call yourself, politician, surgeon, yada yada. It doesn't matter what your title is, if that impresses you. There used to be an old saying, don't give the bitch a pay rise, give her a new job title. Make her a manager, but don't give her any more money. Give her a bonus at the end of the year if she performs. And what they do is they get rid of her before the end of the year comes so they don't have to pay the performance bonus. Poor deluded Mandy thought she was going to be. And she wasn't. This old epitaph that we all know about by now, I'll say it again in closing. It's a real tragedy about people and careers and ambition and accumulation. And it says, there he is. And it says, David, you basked beneath the sun. Sorry, he slept beneath the moon, and he basked beneath the sun. He lived a life of gonna do, yet died with nothing done. We come into this world with nothing, and we'll go with nothing. Such is our lot in life. And as far as I'm concerned, my time on this world has been a penance. And quite frankly, I really don't want to come back. I enjoy it for what it is. I enjoy my family for the short time I have with them. I've done my bit. And eventually it'll be time for this soul to move on. And I've learnt my lesson. There has to be greener pastures. Love you all. Take care. There can only be one penal colony in this universe, and I'm on it. So whether you're a prison in bars or out of bars, we're all prisoners, in one way or another. Doodle bit.